Hey guys, it's me, the gaming Dr. Mada. And yes, finally another game review. I'm really sorry about the anemic content on my channel, but I already addressed this issue on a previous video of mine. So please go check that out and show your support. But I promise you, this channel will have more videos soon. And I promise you, they'll be good. Anyway, speaking of anemic content, let's talk about a game that doesn't pack as much of a punch as you would actually think it does. Let's get into my video and talk about my new patient, King of Fighters 15. Oh yeah, and the nurse is here. Hey, that didn't count. I was post-call. You. Sorry about that, guys. Was just having a small dispute with the nurse. Nurse, we'll talk about this later. Sheesh. Let's get into the history of this game. The King of Fighters was SNK's response to Capcom's Street Fighter 2. It was released on the SNK Neo Geo arcade machine, where it was designed to steal everyone's money. The first time I actually personally came across this game was King of Fighters 98, and it was really fun until you got to Omega Rugal. I hate that guy so much. Sadly, the one gripe I kinda had with this game was the learning curve. It was hard to learn and hard to master. The difficulty spike in this game was also ridiculous for its time, especially when you got to Omega Rugal. You have to remember, internet was not available to teach us things back then, and move lists were all kept secret by people who knew them. I mean, this was back in the day when no one would even share how to do a fatality in Mortal Kombat. These were like top secret things that you had to learn from your cousins, brothers, uncles, sisters, nephew or something like that. Up to now, I still don't know the initial moves in the first few Mortal Kombats until they introduced move lists. It was so unfair. Should I actually go back and try those games again? What do you think, nurse? Hey, I said I was post-call. Eventually, the KOF franchise picked up speed, and since then has had a ton of sequels and spin-offs with varying levels of success. Now we come to KOF 15, the newest member in a long line of games. And what is it about? Let's talk about it in the presentation. So in this version of KOF, we have two main characters. Those are Shanae and Isla. Forgive me if I haven't pronounced those names correctly. I haven't spoken Japanese in a long time. Anyway. So the story takes place after King of Fighters 14. Here, we're told that this tournament was initiated by Anastasia, who I honestly don't know anything about. And honestly, I'll leave a video down below in the description so that you can go and see the story yourself by a guy named Shori Games, I think. He really explains it and breaks down the story very, very well. So please go give it a watch, give him a subscribe and a like, and tell him I sent you, as usual. Let's continue. Anyway, all I know is that there's a being called Reverse that has an affinity for people called Amplified Spectres, which apparently Shanae and Isla are. In fact, the affinity can let these two heroes in this game lose control of their powers and be overcome by the power of Reverse, whose goal is obviously to destroy mankind. But that's the basic presentation. What else does this game have to offer? Let's now go to signs and symptoms. In terms of my signs and symptoms, let's start off with the good, because that's always a nice place to start. The game is actually quite fun. Once you know the basics of the mechanics, you can actually pull off some pretty decent offensive moves. There's a basic combo you can do by mashing the square button, and depending on the amount of super meter you have at the bottom of your screen, you can actually pull off various powerful end moves. The combat is fun, but very hard to learn unless you're a very determined fighting gamer. However, once you start executing these combos and start kicking some major butte, you really have a blast, and it's actually, again, Fun. The special moves in these games are also really cool to experience. They are very fluid and well animated. Some moves are more devastating than others, and some are, well, have a look.
Time to style on him with a gun! This is gonna hurt! Can they survive?
Honestly, not a bad way to go. There are a total of 39 characters in this game that are divided into 13 teams. When playing through the story mode using one of these 13 teams, you get a unique story-based ending based on that team. However, there are some hidden teams in the game that you can also find out by mixing and matching. Give this a shot and you find some really interesting combinations with some unique endings as well. Fan favorite and long stakes characters are also back, such as Kyo, Ayori, Joe, Blue Mary, K-Dash, Chris, Yoshiro, Shermie, Terry Bogart and his brother standing in a very weird and unique stance yet again, which honestly, I won't lie, looks very, very uncomfortable. I mean, how does that work? Like, how do you move and anyway, sorry, let's get back to the review. There are some new characters too that are also pretty fun. However, there's one character that pisses me off. Ash, that cheaty bastard, and that bloody kick over and over again. The final boss, Otoma Raga, is challenging but not impossible to beat. She isn't like that bloody Omega Rugo that genocide cutted me into oblivion. I'm told that Rugo Bernstein is also a DLC character, which I'm honestly interested in. Finally, let's move to the bad. There are naming modes. There are only 3 or 4 modes that a single player can actually enjoy. These are the versus, the story mode, and the training, while advanced training, which is basically mission mode. Fun. Things such as time attack, survival mode, or even a mode for viewing concept art are missing in this. Probably for the deluxe edition, I guess. On top of that, I know this is a fighting game, but the cutscenes especially look dated and could come from an early PS3 game, as they tend to stutter and lag a little. Which is weird because the gameplay is a lot smoother. The arenas you fight in are also lackluster and don't really evoke anything in you. They're pretty forgettable, and honestly that's pretty sad considering this is actually quite a fun game. Finally, the story mode themselves. Yes, it's nice to have an ending and all, but I wish they were at least voiced or properly animated, or felt more consequential. Otherwise, they are fun but overall pretty forgettable throwaway endings. My final issue with this game is, if you aren't a trophy hunter, there really is nothing for you here. Once you are done, you're done. No extra characters, unless you consider DLC characters to be your thing, and nothing extra of note. This is purely an esport game, and it's kind of sad. And I really wish there were more things to do and more things to unlock. But I guess unlocking things is something of the past, long gone and forgotten. And those are my thoughts on KOF 15. Let's now talk about the diagnosis. In terms of my diagnosis, I'm gonna be a little bit mean. Yes, this game is fun when you're, playing the single player and doing your things, but there's only so much you can do before you feel like, what's the point? Most of the story endings are lackluster, like I mentioned. Nothing really feels consequential, and honestly, the endings are pretty forgettable. With limited modes, you run out of things to do pretty fast. I'm sure with the online gaming and matchmaking aspects of it, it's fun and all, but still, I'm not an online gamer, so I can't really speak much for that. And with that, I'll say this patient is a little bit unwell. It has something to offer, but it's very, very limited and it's missing a lot. So I would say it has like anemia, which would be a very good diagnosis actually for this. It has the covering of a patient that looks well, but when you go deep inside and truly investigate, there's really nothing there and there's a lot missing, which makes it very sick. It's like content keeps being pulled out and it's really sad to see, honestly. And I really wish they did a lot more with this game. Otherwise, I don't know what else I can say about this game. And that's my diagnosis. This is mostly an esport game and it shows. And it makes it very, very sad because I really wish there were a lot more modes to make this fun and more interactive. I mean, we have the likes of Mortal Kombat and Injustice, just for example. They have great modes and towers and things just to keep you engaged. And I wish they did that more here. Let's move on to recommendations. As for my recommendations, I just wish the game had more modes, more interesting and intriguing stories, and some characters you can unlock via gameplay instead of DLC. I would recommend this game as a game you would play for an hour or two just to kill some time, especially with friends. But otherwise, I feel it's a game you could skip unless you're really into the King of Fighters franchise. Otherwise, there's nothing here of note. It's a fun game, but once the fun runs out, there's nothing much to do. And that's just me being honest. But that's it. I'm at the end of my video now. But before I go, you know how I do it. I always recommend the channel. And if you like game reviews better than mine, who are we kidding? None of them are better than mine. Shut up, nurse, don't say it. But yeah, I'd like to recommend Easy Allies. Those guys are amazing in game reviews, and I've been following them since they've transitioned from game trailers to their new channel, Easy Allies. Please go watch them. They have a lot of content, they have a lot of videos you can get into, and good recommendations for video games that you might actually be into. So have a look at that, please. They're really fun, and tell them I sent you, as usual. And finally, there's a competition I'd like to point out. I already know that I'm not a big esports person, but many of you could be, so hear me out. Do you like esports? Do you think your football gaming skills are worth going pro? Well, now's your chance to prove it, as you, yes you, can try out to represent Malawi in the world of esports. KOTG Esports Club is holding Malawi's esports national tryouts for people who want to represent Malawi at the CEC Birmingham UK event, which is taking place in August of this year. Categories are eFootball Open and eFootball Women. This will take place in Blantyre at Annie's Lodge in Nyambadwe from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the 28th of this month. Call the number on the screen to find out more. Good luck to you all. And with that, guys, that closes my video. Thank you again for coming and clicking on my unique face. And honestly, I really appreciate the support. I promise you, again, this channel will grow and I will put a lot more videos out. I've got the Batman review coming up soon, of course spoiler free. Guys, give it a watch. Anyway, that ends the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, guys, on to the next patient.